Welcome, bold ones, especially those of you who are building intimacy and impact in your business, and for those of you who are leaders in your organizational career leadership. You're listening to Balance Boldly, the space where innovative overachievers, the impact-driven, high-performing visionaries stop performing balance and start living it. Look, most systems are built for output, not connection. When we're really looking at the truth of it, the systems that are being built in business, especially these days, are built to squeeze and not support. The metrics we're chasing measure output, but not connection. And the culture is rewarding, speed, but is it really rewarding sustainability? We have so many people that are disconnected, including being disconnected from ourselves just to stay relevant, that they're numb and they're overcompensating just so they can continue to push. Now, in a normal Naketa-ism, which again, if you're new to the show, you'll learn that I make up phrases and words and terms and redefine things all the time just because, I like it. I'm really good at it. It downloads in my spirit and I push it out when it's appropriate. The acronym PUSH, which is opposite of the way that I just said it, was overcompensating and pushing outwards with this kind of bullyish energy. The acronym PUSH for me actually means something different when we use it in a positive. It literally stands for positive use of skills for healing. It's something that kind of dropped into my spirit. Actually, me and my husband were talking about it probably like somewhere between 2012 and maybe closer to 2014, because I feel like my youngest was nearing graduation. My oldest, was nearing graduation at the time, and he graduated 2015 from high school. When I think about the reason to push, it really is to help other people. Now, sometimes we will kind of justify our excuses by saying, oh, well, the work that I'm doing or this project that I'm working on or this thing that has to get done is for other people, so I have to push. But we have to, pun intended here, because this is the Balance Boldly podcast, we have to balance that with the reality of, am I pushing to please someone else? Like literally to people please? Or am I pushing because this thing that needs to get out of me, that needs to get complete, that needs to get in action, if it's not about completion at that time, that needs to kind of, get started with the inspired passion and action that's driving it? Is that push because it's something that will really, truly create a ripple? Or again, is it to please someone because someone is expecting something from me, and I'm afraid to be rejected or belittled or shamed as not enough in some way if I don't do this? You have to sit back and ask yourself that, because disconnection is costing way more than it returns, specifically when we are disconnected from ourselves. And we want to be really careful about what we're doing in our life, our love, our leadership, and everything in between that's not creating more intimacy with ourselves. You might hit the quarterly goal, you might have some version of direction, feeling good because you're looking at your numbers, but what about your internal compass? Like, what's hitting the mark there? The cost may not be burnout, because burnout is often just a symptom of the real cost, which is losing intimacy with yourself. And when that happens, you lose your clarity, your creativity is dimmed or diminished, and your relationships literally start to drift because of it. It's important to not erode our relationships at the cost of telling ourselves that this is because of innovation and we're glamorizing growth but breaking trust. That's not how we form lifelong or even seasonally healthy partnerships. And it's definitely not something that's going to be holistically supportive of our own bodies. Then we want to turn around and say, oh, but I'm progressing. Like, I'm calling it progress in the name of career growth. I'm calling it progress in the name of portfolio building. I guess there's always a time, a space, and a place to be in high adrenaline, high overachiever mode, for sure. And as a lazy, innovative overachiever that I am myself personally, I'm just talking about me. I'm not talking about you. But as a lazy, innovative overachiever, I know that it is very likely, to put it simply, it's very likely that I am going to be in crash out mode energetically. Like my mood is going to be horrible if I go so high, so intense for too long, especially when it's not for the right reasons. And I'm like, again, feeling like I just need to get this done. I don't want to hear somebody's mouth if I don't get this done. I don't want to, have this over my head, or I don't want them to feel like I owe them anything if I don't. Like if I'm just putting some other person's expectations on this, or even my younger version, which younger could be 2 days ago, my younger version of myself 2 days ago, some expectation that has expired, that is no longer serving me, that is stifling my growth, and quite frankly, might be strangling the oxygen from the air for me out of the project, which is why it's such a drag and a hard push, the negative version of the word, in the first place. If I'm doing that, I am not going to be a very kind Naketa. That is just the reality. I am not kind when I don't get good sleep. I am not kind when I don't eat well. And I am not kind when I am people pleasing. So those are 3 things that I'm really careful in my own body, in my own spirit, in my own life, to try to avoid not getting enough of and not doing appropriately. I don't want my growth to destroy my relationships. I don't want to call that growth strategy when it's really avoidance of the larger part of my reality. I don't want to be in survival mode, but I have designer clothes and labels on. Who cares? Who cares what jewelry you're rocking, what car you're driving, how big your square footage is if you live in the US, your space is, or whatever the case is. Who cares if you are literally brittle on the inside and you don't have sustainable, healthy, loving relationships? And when I say love, I'm not just talking about your personal relationships. I love my clients, who I call client partners, because I love that I get the privilege of doing the work that I do and to be able to pay it forward as someone who's gifted with edification and who can edify with the strategies and the relational intelligence that I have because of the work that I've put into my education, the applying of those things, the intuitive guidance that I've led by. I love that I get the privilege to do it. It's not always fun because there are hard parts to the work that I do. When someone is melting with tears of release, they're not always as fun as the tears of joy, right? But it is a part of the process, and I'm grateful for it. So I love my clients and I love the opportunity to work with them. I love my power partners who come back again and again and find other ways for us to be in partnership, which may not be in a direct 1-to-1 or 1-to-2. If it's a couple relational advisory, and for recalibration sake, it may be that they also have a company and they want to license my Joy Map method or some of the other IP that I have that are systems and not just a short process or framework, which they're, frameworks and methods and systems and processes are a part of systems, but they're not as simple as like a one and done. Like these are things that can literally change something from A to Z. And sometimes my founder clients that own smaller businesses that may have anywhere from 5 to 100 employees want to license that work, where perhaps they started with working with me in an advisory capacity or in a 1-to-1, or like I said, like a small, like 1-to-2 or for the team way. But those are my power partners. They also don't try to keep me as the best kept secret. They share They share the greatness of my work, and we work at high discretion over here at Think Pro. So we're definitely not like, hey, give me a testimonial every 20 seconds. If you can, that's fantastic. I always say, put it on LinkedIn. It's third-party verified. It's the easiest place to do it. Some people prefer to write an email, which we can then take the clip of that and put it on the website or whatever, but we don't require it in order to work with us. We're not going to have a phone or a camera in your face every 22 seconds. It is literally get the transformation, create a ripple of intimacy and impact from that transformation you received for yourself if you worked with us 1-on-1 or 1-to-2, like I said, so that it can spread out and change the world. Like that is the goal. And to help the business cycle of Think Pro keep going, share with the people who matter with you, and preferably people who are also in similar positions of needing our support and our guidance and our services, but also who can invest in themselves to achieve it and retrieve it ultimately. And I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it did. So what? There it goes. That being said, it's really important that my clients, my power partners, my client partners, referral partners, that we are all in conversation in a way that is reciprocal, because it's not just about, hey, what can you do for ThigPro and what did ThigPro do for you that one time? It's also making sure that we're building holistic relationships where the trust is deepening, literally deepening, to the point where many of my clients have become friends. I have become clients of many of my clients, and for different products and services that they also offer. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the client portion of the relationship, but the partnership has just evolved because the trust has deepened. I've been invited to weddings of clients that I haven't actually served in a client capacity in over a decade. And I'm still on their list of, like, you have to come to my son's baby shower with his new wife, or whatever the case is, or this wedding that's happening for me. And I found my greatest love because of you and the work that we did together and whatever. And I love that I'm seen that way and I can share space that way, because the relationship matters most. I also love being able to give in a beautiful and fruitful way that doesn't feel exhausting, even when it's not a part of, said program, system, or package that they're working with, because I get to do that out of the goodness of the love that I have, and know that I'm paid very well regardless, because I have boundaries around that too. And that's an important part of what you need to do when you're innovating, but also not ignoring the intimacy that's needed in those relationships that you are either in an co-innovative creation mode with, or for the people that you're doing it for in the first place. So one of the examples, I don't want to mess up this gentleman's name, that I like to think of that I feel like uses intimacy and innovation really, really well, is the gentleman who's currently, again, this is November 2025 at the time of this recording, who's CEO of Microsoft. I want to say Mr. Satella is his last name. I'm so horrible with names. I will find out the name and put the correct one in here. But the CEO of Microsoft, again, as of November 13th, 2025, at the time of this recording, because, Microsoft's a big company, so who knows what's going on in 6 more seconds, let alone tomorrow. But at the time of this recording, I remember reading an article about him when he was looking at how to use AI, an innovative tool, which is one of many, to create and or elevate the way the ADA disability kind of tools are in the suite of Microsoft Word, OneNote, Excel, all that work, so that people who are differently abled are able to use those tools just as effectively as people who are not differently abled. And for me, that's intimacy and innovation. Using your innovative tool in a way to help people, to bring people closer together, because now they can use the software, the tools that to create their own innovative tools and structures and dynamic systems and processes, and to write and draw and sketch and do so many other beautiful things. And to me, just thinking about that, not just from and I'm sure there was a fiscal responsibility portion of that as well. Like, obviously there's a market that you want to make sure that you're able to tap into, so they can access the tools that Microsoft has created in this specific instance. But with that said, you didn't have to. You could just focus on able-bodied people, which is horrible, and I don't agree with that. But he could have. He could have not invested in that at all and had teams inside the organization come together to make sure that they could really make those tools and those suites and those adaptations that were necessary so other people could access it, so more people in this world could access it. He could have not done that, and they could have just focused on developing some other cool tool to put into the suite that was for able-bodied people, right? So I really appreciate that. And that's just something that kind of sticks with me for so many reasons. But that's an example of intimacy fueling innovation in that way. The way that I talk about in the letters on Substack through Thick Pro Quo, the way that I want to keep talking to you about it here at the BBP, the way, the types of humans that I want to interview here on the BBP are people who are literally using intimacy in innovative ways through the work that they're doing. And it's creating a deeper ripple of impact through their business or their leadership within their organization they work with. So just thinking about the successful leaders that I know, they're literally the ones who are treating intimacy as infrastructure and not just as something, to use romantically in relationships. If I were to get technical, which I won't go deep because I promised myself that I would try to keep these episodes under 20 minutes and preferably closer to 15, there's 13 different types of intimacy. There's books that say there's 34 plus types of intimacy, but I kind of stick to the 13, which includes, self-intimacy as one of them. And knowing that intimacy isn't just personal, it's practical. Like in the example that I used earlier with the CEO of Microsoft, you want to move beyond looking at intimacy as just, romantic or, all specifically for the vulnerability portions of it. Look at the measurability of it, the impact of it, the fact that, there are people who are in a reactive leadership stance that can do better if they could be more intimate and more grounded with themselves in that very personal way, but also in a way that's scaled through the trust that they're creating with their teams, their co-leaders, if you're a founder of a company, with your vendors and contractors and so on and so forth. Intimacy increases retention, and connection increases creativity. Like, these are all things that are connected to the bottom line, to the dollar, to the ROI that these companies need to see. Like, intimacy literally is a leadership strategy. It's the human algorithm behind every successful system that lasts, because relationships are what sustain business. It might not have been what you were able to use to build your business, but it definitely sustains it. And you want to make sure that you have healthy, quality relationships that are respecting your boundaries and you're respecting theirs, so that you're not just in this kind of productivity loop, but you're able to be in a protective connection, kind of infinite cycle of sorts. And when I say infinite, I don't mean that the relationships that have expired need to go on and on and on. I mean that they are reciprocal. And in that, there's always a smooth, I'm literally drawing the figure 8 with my hand right now, which is our logo for Thick Pro. It's literally the smooth kind of back and forth that's not transactional, that's very much about the give and give more, and being open to receive and receive more, that comes organically and naturally between humans and connection. And so I hope that you protect that if you are in business or in leadership and you're feeling like you're giving more than you're receiving, or you're receiving a lot, and when you look around, you're not actually giving because you've been so booked and busy, that you're not nearly as productive as you could be, because you're out of connection with yourself, and you're out of connection in your literal self-awareness of who you are and what's happening in your body and your mind and your spirit in your day-to-day. Then I ask you to do what I'm going to ask you to do at the end of every single episode. Enjoy the balance of your day, but do it boldly. Dr. Naketa Ren Thigpen. I'll talk to you soon.